and welcome to What's the Buzz, the Attleboro Council on Aging's talk show. I'm Courtney Diamond, and today I am pleased to be here with District Attorney Thomas Quinn. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Courtney.
Absolutely. So I'd like to start off by talking to our viewers about what the role of the District Attorney's Office is. Well,
the role is to prosecute cases throughout Bristol County. There are 4 major cities and 16 towns. The District Attorney, myself, is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in the county. Cases are prosecuted for people that are arrested or summoned into court, or investigations that are conducted by our office. So it's the Chief Law Enforcement Officer who oversees the prosecution of criminal cases in Bristol County.
So in regards to elders, what are the majority of the cases or assistance that you're providing and seeing?
Well, I've been the District Attorney for a little over 10 years now. Shortly after I became District Attorney, it was clear to me that our seniors were being victimized by con artists and, subject to fraud. And that's something that was just not acceptable to me. Mm-hmm. Our seniors have made these communities what they are through their hard work and dedication. And, going back, say a decade or more, especially with the increased use of technology, these thieves and scam artists were taking advantage of our seniors and others, but primarily our seniors, because they're vulnerable victims, often isolated. They could be a widow or widower, they're at home, and some of these, the tactics are designed to scare them. So I made it a priority to create a unit to prosecute financial crimes relating to the elderly and other people. But one of the main things I've done is to try to focus on prevention. In many instances, when seniors or anybody are scammed, the chances of getting the money back are slim to none. There can be a rare case in which the police get involved and they apprehend somebody, but it's so once the money is sent, either through a convenience store, Bitcoin machine, or putting it out in the mailbox, or sending it through UPS, the money's gone. So I've been throughout Bristol County during the past decade, in Attleboro a number of times. Attleboro Senior Center Council, it was the first place I visited after becoming DA. They had a summer social, so it's been a priority to get out to the senior centers and assisted living to spread the message of prevention, because the money that people are being scammed out of is astounding in this area, in this state, throughout the country, and it's obviously not right. But so I think prevention and spending the efforts going out and seeing, meeting with seniors at various places and spreading that message and giving them some tips on what to do is something, I've been to numerous senior centers, multiple times, and continue to do that.
Now, what tips would you have for a senior that believes they might be scammed or is concerned about that? What are the red flags?
Well, I think the red flags are, if someone is calling your phone, we'll use that as an example, you should not answer the phone if you don't know who's calling. Many people have numbers programmed into their cell phones if they have it, so they know who's calling. And even, although I used to have it on my TV, I don't have it now, you'd see who was calling in the upper right side. I have not seen that for a while. But I remember seeing, Wyoming, somebody's calling from Wyoming. Well, I don't know anybody in Wyoming or Kansas or wherever it is. So I think what we've tried to do is say, you've got to be disciplined. You have a right to answer the phone, but if you get lured into something and then you're startled from these various scams, people do succumb and give up money. I'm certainly not saying don't answer the phone, for medical appointments, but here's the thing, anybody who wants to talk to you on the phone is going to leave a message, for sure. And then I think, there's computer scams. I think if you do answer the phone, sometimes there's a hesitation, a little gap, and then you hear a voice saying whatever they're saying. I think two of the popular scams on the phone have been the grandparent scam, which is sadly very effective because it arouses emotion and concern from people when the caller says, your grandson or granddaughter's been in an accident or in jail and we need money to get them out. Don't tell the parents. You're caught off guard and all of a sudden they're saying send $10,000 to wherever you're sending it. Go down, put in the Bitcoin machine, and then it's gone. But if you don't answer the phone to a person, again, this is not a caller that you know, you're not going to get scammed. It sounds simple. It is simple. We know people are going to answer the phone. Some people have a little tougher personality, and they might engage the scammers, and who are you, and what are you doing, and hang up. I wouldn't advise that because you never know. It's designed to elicit fear. It's a psychological reaction, and some people are more susceptible to that than others. And there's a lot of money that has been scammed. Every time I go out and speak to a senior center or a group, somebody's been scammed. Somebody the other day was saying how $7,500 quickly went away. I think he said it was the IRS. That was another popular scam. Now, I have not heard much of that lately. We're going back 7 or 8 years. But again, nobody wants the IRS after them, right? So when they say you owe money, we're going to arrest you, we're going to send somebody to your house, put the money in the mailbox, or whatever they say to do, people have done that. As I mentioned, the grandparent scam. Another popular scam with seniors is the romance scam, where someone would call up and, ingratiate themselves with the person who most likely is alone, and that evolves into them giving them money. A lot of people are lonely, and that's understandable. I mean, today you're sitting around a cold winter day at home all day, somebody calls the phone, you might want to answer the phone. I might, myself. And then somebody's showing you some attention, and they say, well, send me some, I need some money, send me some gift cards, I want to come see you. Or it could evolve into, hundreds of thousands of dollars, certainly well over $100,000. We've seen cases through that scam, and sadly, in many of those cases, we don't even know about it because people are reluctant to report it. So, focusing on those issues and others, you had mentioned earlier, we were chatting that these thieves and scam artists are always adapting to what's going on. So you have to be vigilant. Something new is going to come. Briefly, the use of artificial intelligence, that's supposed to being, put forward as something that's a great advance for the societies. It may be in some areas, but when you can artificially distort someone's voice and use it to steal money, that's not a good use. And we've heard and seen that where the actual grandchild's voice is taken from somewhere and then adapted to saying, grandma, I need the money, and that's even more terrifying. So it's about prevention and discipline. It's sad that we have to spend so much time on it, but if we can just prevent some of these people from being victimized, then it's all worthwhile.
Absolutely. And for anyone that feels like they've been a victim of a scam, and anyone who is questioning it, they can always reach out to the Attleboro Council on Aging's outreach department. We're happy to talk people through that. Can you go through the steps of what happens once someone believes they've been a victim of a scam? How should they go about getting that addressed or resolved?
Well, I think if they are a victim of a scam, they should call the police department. I think calling the Council on Aging is a very good resource. They could call our office. We have a financial crimes unit. I think if they've really been scammed, starting with the police would be helpful. But again, prevention is critical, because once you've been scammed in the way they scam people, as I said, whether you go to a Bitcoin machine and put in $7,500 or more, you're not going to get the money back. There's been a rare instance. There was a case in this area several years ago where there was a scam and the person put money in the mailbox but had called the police beforehand, so that was a little different. I believe it was in the mailbox, and police came and they apprehended the person, but it was a lower level person who was like just told, here, we'll give you some money, go pick this up. We've heard some of the money sent through UPS or at the UPS store. So, I've had people I know call me up and tell me they've been scammed. But you got to call the police. Well, that would be the first thing I would do. But sadly, unless it's before the act occurs, the theft, very tough, because you've given the money and they're not going to trace any phone numbers or anything out. So, but I think you mentioned the Council on Aging, and I actually was at a Council on Aging in this part of the county, and an example was given where an individual was at home and the wife was at the Council on Aging. And it was a country in Central America, I forget. The individual, and again, just I can appreciate how people can get duped, but was prepared to give $20,000 or $25,000 to somebody in, Ecuador or one of those countries. Fortunately, the person before doing that called the wife at the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging intervened and stopped that. So that's where you can say that's very important, because that is a resource where you can get support. And you have different versions. You have family members who take advantage of their loved ones. That is very sad. You have a family member, a mother, a father who loves their children, or if it's a close relative, and is taken advantage of. They're not looking to go to the police and implicate a son or daughter most of the time. But that's the source of a lot of fraud that never even comes to light, because somebody gets their name on a joint account, they're taking money out. So that's terrible, obviously, and people have to live with that. If you're going to con your family members for money in an inappropriate way, you're going to have to answer to that at some point, even if it's not through the law, your conscience or and. So, you also have caretakers. A lot of people are having caretakers more and more, and they can take advantage of the person they're taking care of. A lot of them provide great work, and it's a wonderful, important service. But when you're in a house and you might have someone who's mobility issues, and you know where cash is or are entrusted with cash, all of a sudden people get close and then going to the bank, or they have access to other items of value in the house. Temptation takes over, and people are taken advantage of. We had a successful prosecution in this area. I won't get any specifics. This was a caretaker case a number of years ago, and person was prosecuted, taking care of a woman at home, elderly woman, and she was held accountable. She was convicted. It was a large amount of money. So we've had a number of successful prosecutions, which I'm proud of, because there have been people held accountable. But the main thing is prevention. And prevention from the scams. Obviously, if you have a caretaker in the house or somebody's assisting you, family members need to be vigilant, because, again, I'm not judging anybody, but temptation for people, you don't know what their circumstances are. They may need money. You have access, the opportunity. It's the human condition that in some of these cases money is going to be taken. So again, there are different parts of it. There's outright stealing. If an older person is taken advantage of by, say, a contractor or a business person in some fashion, that is potentially a crime, and the police could look into it. But I think that one of the main things now is the fraud through the computer, social, from the media, from technology, the phone, obviously, and then the computers and whatever else people are doing. Technology is good, but it has a lot of negative sides to it that we're seeing more and more.
Sure. And we do every July a ice cream social and scam discussion with you. So we're looking forward to having you back this July.
Yes.
I'd like to pivot a little bit to elder abuse. And can you discuss the types of elder abuse that your office is seeing?
Well, I think there are several forms of elder abuse. There's physical abuse, which is reprehensible. I mean, intentionally assaulting a senior citizen. There's certainly no place for that in our society, but there are different reasons for it, whether someone has a mental health or is just an individual not who has a malicious side to them. Mm-hmm. There is emotional abuse, but in many cases that's not a crime. It could be from a family member or members. It could be from people that, if you live in a community. The financial fraud abuse, stealing from people, is very common because, again, I'm focusing on this in large part because our seniors are vulnerable victims. Mm-hmm. They have responded to authority, they respect the law, they respect people, and they might be more vulnerable. When I say gullible, in the sense of they trust people. It's a very that doesn't exist the way it used to in today's society. So I think that's where we take the prevention, talk about prevention, and if there is sufficient evidence, we investigate a case, prosecuting it. But that is the last resort, only because you're not necessarily going to get satisfaction out of that. And then you have caretaker neglect. You could have, and these are really terrible cases, where a family member or person has control and the responsibility to care for a senior. It could be your mother, your aunt, whoever it is. And in some of those cases, they don't properly care for the person under their control. Mm-hmm. Some people are getting money to take care of their parents too. Mm-hmm. And we've had cases we've had to prosecute where the person has died from malnutrition or just their deteriorating physical condition at some point results in death because they're not being properly cared for, taking to doctor's appointments, being fed properly, being cleaned properly. So those are horrendous cases. We've had to prosecute some of those over the years. But again, I think the obligation is on anybody who has access to the senior to be aware of it and to try to check on them. When I say you can't trust people, you can trust some people, but you just have to be aware that if it's a family member and someone's being cared for, that you check in on them. Having people handle your money is very risky. Mm-hmm. If it's not a family member, and even in that case it could be, but there's only so much you can do. Mm-hmm. If a family member who has access to a parent and access to an account is taking money. So those are the forms of abuse, and the cases that are most commonly prosecuted would be financial fraud, if the evidence is there, and in cases, sadly, assaulting a senior.
Mm-hmm. It really just goes to show the importance of having a connected community and outlets for older adults to be able to raise their concerns to. And that leads to my question of mandated reporters. So can you explain who is a mandated reporter?
Well, in general, there are a number of mandated reporters. Law enforcement's a mandated reporter. First responders, medical people, doctors, dentists, physicians, nurses, and others in similar organizations. So there are a number of people who are mandated reporters, but again, the question is, what are they? Physical abuse would be, I think, the main thing, that's important. These cases can be very difficult because if a senior is isolated, which they are in many cases, meaning they don't leave their house often. Some people have family, some people don't. Who has access to them? You could be a neighbor and say, "Hey, what's going on over there?" But if you report to the police, I think something's fishy going on over there. I haven't seen her. People, okay, but can they really do anything with that? Maybe they can look into it, but it's difficult. So there are, though, a safety net of people who can report abuse, if it occurs, that's going to be the primary issue that people would report.
What would be the steps for a mandated reporter if they suspected abuse? Who should they reach out to first?
Well, again, it depends. They could I think they reach out to the police. If children were involved, the mandated reporter, they would reach out to the social service agency, and then referrals are made to the DA's office. It depends that, you have some disabled people. There's a Disabled Persons Commission. We get a number of referrals from them. So they're a commission that exists, and then an agency under them that reports information to us. So ultimately it could work its way to the district attorney's office. And that's the basic process. If someone called the police, then the police could, report, investigate the matter, report it to the DA's office as further investigation was warranted.
Well, I thank you so much for coming on to the talk show and talking about what's happening at the district attorney's office, and we truly appreciate the ongoing partnership and education that you're providing to Attleboro older adults. Well,
thank you for having me. It's a very important issue to me, which I continue to prioritize. It's been approximately a decade now, and I will continue to do it. We were out speaking the other day at a facility in New Bedford and have made a lot of appearances. But as you said, I think it is a connected community. You need people involved. Attleboro Senior Center, could notice something. It gives people confidence. It gives them some comfort because they're familiar to report these matters. I mean, as I indicated, some of the seniors don't have the capacity to report these matters. I mean, how do you report if your son is abusing you physically? What do you do? I mean, it's not call the police. I mean, and it's not as all blatant. It could be a lot of emotional abuse going along with that. That's very tough to deal with. Your son who you loved, or daughter, whoever the person is, a nephew. We had a case a number of years ago. It was in the county and the city. So an individual was on probation and started going to the grandmother saying, "I'm going to be violated. I need money." So money was for drugs. So a substantial money was paid by the grandmother. Eventually, it came to light that this was fraud. The person fled to the Carolinas, and I had the fugitive unit go look for him, and the person was apprehended and was brought back to court, and the grandmother, to her credit, said, "Look, I love my grandson, but this isn't right." She came to court. The person was violated on the probation and had to go to jail. But I had a lot of respect for her because it wasn't easy, but she didn't deserve to be treated or have to live like that. At that point in her life, or any point, to have to be victimized, but by your grandson, that's very difficult to take. But she did the right thing, not an easy thing, but that's just one of many examples that types of cases we've been involved in, but it's very difficult when it is a family member.
Absolutely. And as a Council on Aging, we're always here to chat with anyone who needs anything. Thank you for tuning in to What's the Buzz, and we hope that you join us next time. Thank you.